Well, see, her friend, her patients have been telling her about it,
Mhm.
and then she's been seeing a lot of these Apple ads for it
Right.
for your consideration.
Yes.
And it's like, oh, what's that? Have
No,
you seen that?
She'd like it. Also, I think you'd like Nightmare Alley, but we'll get there.
Oh, we'll get there.
We'll get there.
It's Guillermo del Toro.
It's just
so long.
Yeah. Even
I
while
saw
I
that
was
3
watching,
hours. Like,
yeah.
it's so long.
Even while we were
Why is
watching
that
it, I was
long?
just like, oh, this feels so long. And Christy, of course, was like, no, Power of the Dogs feels longer. I'm like, no, it doesn't. But to each their own.
Speaking
She did not care. She did not care.
Sorry. Speaking of so long and stuff I didn't put on here. Because I watched that literally last week.
God.
It's
Okay,
been a week.
We're going to talk about that then.
It's been a week.
We'll probably lead with that, and then I'll do my quick wrap-ups. All right.
We're streaming. We're live. My hair is what it is.
That's why I wear hats.
Yeah. That's why it's like almost like super anime protagonist here. It's just missing the streak going down there.
Yeah.
All right. Recording in. Oh wait, I'm doing the intro.
You don't need to count me down. Count yourself down.
No, let's do a better resolution. Maybe that'll work.
Support that? We'll see.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to a cleaner audio version and cleaner episode, hopefully, with our mouth of the Media Boat Podcast. If you don't know what the Media Boat Podcast is, welcome and thank you for finding us on your own. If you do, then you will know that we talk about movies, TV, music, and video games. Not necessarily in that order. My name's Mike. His name is Matt.
Wow, 9 names. My name's Matt, and his name's Mike. Yes, thank you for joining us. It is March the 19th, 2022. This is episode 323. 323 coming at you in 2022. Thanks for joining us. We have a lot to get to, so let's go straight into it.
Oh, a lot to get to is an understatement. This will be a jam-packed episode. We're going to try and keep our thoughts short, but if you listen to us, you know us. So let's stop talking about everything, and let's start talking about Bruno, which we'll get to, with music and the Billboard Hot 100. Except it's not your top song. Number 1 is still, again, Heat Waves by Glass Animals.
Yep.
Looking at number 2 is We Don't Talk About Bruno by Encanto.
Yep. By Encanto.
By all of Encanto.
Yep.
The house sang it. Yep. Coming in at 3, Super Gremlin by Kodak Black.
Still don't know what that is. Also, Christy informed me that apparently all the teens are saying are calling things gremlin mode now. Apparently that's super trendy. It's like, when somebody's like a weird, creepy thing, it's like, they're going gremlin mode. Like, what the fuck?
But gremlins that's only after you get them wet and after you feed them after midnight.
I don't think.
Also, depending on which gremlins? Midnight. That's what.
No, sorry. Oh my god, my bad. I am ancient. I'm gonna sound so ancient to people. Sorry, goblin mode, not gremlin mode.
So Trolls 2.
I guess the kids are saying things are goblin mode.
So Trolls 2.
I guess. I don't know. No, kids don't make sense.
In the town of Nilbog?
I don't know. I'm 32 now. Nothing makes sense to me anymore.
My god. Anyways, move on. And yeah, all that references just flew over everyone's head there.
Yeah, all these teens.
Coming in at number 4, ABCDEFU by Gale.
Talk more about Gale in a hot second.
And rounding out your top 5, staying in the top 5, Stay by the Kid Laroi and Justin Bieber. As for your albums chart, your Billboard 200.
Yeah.
Number 1, once again, Encanto, the soundtrack.
Still.
Coming in at 2, What It Means to Be King by King Von.
He would know. He's got King in his name.
At 3, Danger Russ, the double album by Morgan Wallen.
Rolls Eyes.
At 4, Back for Everything by Kodak Black.
Yep.
And rounding out your top 5, DS Forever by Gunna.
The usual suspects here. The Weeknd drops off, and Sour is just outside as well at 5 and 6 respectively.
Is that the Weeknd's compilation album?
Yes, the Highlights is still your number 5, number 6 record.
The hits. If you didn't like any of those albums, we have new releases.
Okay.
Starting with Warm Chris by Aldous Harding.
I was trying to figure out if this was a typo or not. And I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna keep it because it's a really funny name.
Is it Warm Chris or Warm Christ? Or we don't know.
There was no T at the end. I just couldn't tell if it was an L or an I. And I'm like, either way, it's weird. So I'm gonna go with Warm Chris.
Well, what would the other be? Warm Curls? Churls?
Yeah, I don't know. Either way, it's weird.
Churros.
It just made me laugh a lot when I was looking at it this morning.
We also have Barbara by Barry.
Barry? I'm
Barry?
not sure, actually.
Barbara by Barry. Running with the Hurricane by Camp Cope.
I don't recommend running with a hurricane.
You usually run away from the hurricane.
Yeah, don't run with it.
Unless you are in the eye of the hurricane. Melt My Eyes, See Your Future by Denzel. Not that Denzel. Denzel Curry. Labyrinthitis by Destroyer. Do All Words Can Do by Fucked Up.
It's fucked up.
Circles Around This Town by Maren Morris. And lastly, Never Let Me Go by Placebo.
Yes, that Placebo. So we'll probably talk about Maren Morris next week.
Probably talk about Maren Morris next week.
Yeah, no, I don't know. Just our tastes, we might talk about Maren Morris next week.
Yes. So,
speaking of country
women, last week we talked about Dolly Parton's new album, Run Rose Run, which came out in conjunction with a book of the same title, which she co-authored by James Patterson. James Patterson. General Patton is someone else. And we'll get to a different Patton later.
Yeah, we'll get there.
But Dolly Parton has long been considered the Queen of Country, but she's about to earn a new title.
Or was
about to earn a new title of the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. That is, until Parton herself bowed out of the race. Quote, even though I am extremely flattered to be nominated for the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, I don't feel I have earned that right. I really do not want the vote split because of me. So I must respectfully bow out. I do hope that the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame will understand and be willing to consider me again, if I'm ever worthy. This has, however, inspired me to put out a hopefully great rock and roll album at some point in the future, which I've always wanted to do. My husband is a total rock and roll freak and always encouraged me to do one.
Oh, this was this week's feel good story. Of course, we don't need to tell you that Dolly Parton is a national treasure. Yes. This just made her more endearing to me. Where it's she's like, you know what? I'm not rock and roll. Like, this isn't for me. But you guys have fun over there.
I haven't done enough rock and roll, even though they now accept R&B and hip hop.
Right? Yeah.
It's more like the Hall of Fame of music.
Right. Yeah. That's probably what they should rename it to be, honestly. But yes. But yeah, I get that this is a nice little humble gesture from Dolly, being like, you know what, I've earned a lot of things in my life, but this is not one of those things.
She did famously reject a statue being built of her.
That is true. So yeah, just our humble queen, Dolly. But yeah, the promise of a rock and roll record, though, that would be pretty cool. Let's see.
Yeah.
Let's see if she does it.
We'll see if she does it.
Yeah, that'd be nice.
Yeah. Other than that, the initial side story of this, the initial nominees for this year's Rock and Roll Hall of Fame have been announced.
Right.
We will wait until they will it down to the finalists.
We'll take a look at that soon.
Yep. Meanwhile, other story in music, in actual rock and roll.
Yeah, sort of.
I mean,
closer, I guess, to Dolly
Parton.
That's for sure.
Well, it's technically alternative music, but alternative music is a spin-off of rock and roll.
No genres make sense anymore. Anyway,
mono-genre. 5 years ago,
yes,
the album Everything Now was released by Arcade Fire.
Yes.
And yes, Moan As Much As You Want.
Yeah, pretty mixed reviews critically. Fans didn't like it. It was a weirdly cynical, badly recorded. I don't know what the hell they were thinking. I like Arcade Fire, but that record really fell flat for me. In fact, I believe there's still a review of it on the Media Boat podcast website if you want to go check out what I wrote about it when that thing came out.
Well, good news is you can write their next studio album review because it is confirmed for May 6th of this year.
Yes.
Being released via Columbia Records.
Yeah.
Titled We.
We.
Not French we.
W-E.
The Royal We.
Like we, yes. The Royal We.
Because it's all capitalized.
Oh, yes.
The Royal We, which is the album's arrival, is preceded by its first single already.
Yes.
The Lightning. 1, 2.
Right.
There's no and in there. It's just the Lightning.
Yeah,
1,
the
2.
and is assumed.
It's assumed.
Once you, read the rest of the story and I'll explain what that means.
And has a video directed by Emily Kai Bach.
It's right here.
Right here. Produced by longtime Radiohead producer Nigel Godrich, with the groups Win Butler and
Regine Chasson?
Yeah, I got Regine as this Chasson.
Yeah, French Canadian. I don't know.
And recorded multiple locations, including New Orleans, El Paso, and Mountain Desert Island.
Mountain Desert Island.
Yep, desert and not dessert. Because I'd go live in Mountain Desert Island.
Delicious.
Yep. So the album paradoxically distills the longest. That's them saying this. Quote, the longest we've ever spent writing, uninterrupted, probably ever, into a concise 40-minute epic. One as much about the forces that threaten to pull us away from the people we love as it is inspired by the urgent need to overcome them.
Mm-hmm.
Continuing, quote, We's cathartic journey follows a definable arc from darkness into light over the course of 7 songs divided into 2 distinct sides. A side 1.
Side I.
Side 1.
Get it? I.
Side
I,
1.
we.
I. Side 1. Channeling the fear and loneliness of isolation. And side I.
No.
Side we.
Yes.
Expressing the joy and power of reconnection.
All right. This is a highfalutin nonsense from a band known for highfalutin nonsense.
Oh, I sounded highfalutin nonsense spewing out of my mouth there.
So no, I just want to make a couple notes here. So 40 minutes actually makes it one of the shorter records they've ever put in. And 7 songs is a little misleading because as the name Lightning 1 and 2 implies, it's really 2 songs that are attached together.
You need Lightning I and I.
Sure. So 7 songs is really like 14 songs, just like each one is a part 1 or part 2 or part 3 or part 4, etc. So it's not as long as it sounds like it's going to be, and also not as short as it sounds like it's going to be. I know that's paradox, like as they say, it's kind of a paradox. Yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing what this sounds like. So I listened to the single, and yeah, the Lightning 1, the first half of the song is very like grand, like U2 style ballad, specifically like U2's 2000s comeback.
Okay.
Like around like the early 2000s, like Beautiful Day, etc. Mm-hmm. Like it sounded like that, and then which didn't do much for me. But then when they go into part 2, it really like the rhythm picks up and it just takes off, and it's but really good propulsive Arcade Fire feeling that a lot of people thought they lost after the Suburbs. So I'm looking forward to this record. If it all sounds that like energetic and that it seems like they got their hearts and souls back in it, then sign me up. I'm on board because some of their music has been my favorite ever. So,
this is Grammy Award winning Arcade Fire.
Album of the Year award winner from 2011 for the Suburbs. So yeah, I'm excited for them to be back on their bullshit because it sounds like they are. So keep an eye out for May.
Arcade Fire bullshit coming in May.
Yes, exactly. That works for people who love them and for people who hate them.
Anyways, you listened to some music. I didn't get around to listen to Hailey Whitters. I saw it came out and then didn't get around to it. But yeah, her out right now as of today. You can listen to these 3 albums. Yeah,
so I did some catch up this week. All these came out yesterday, but catch up nonetheless. And 3 completely different things.
Where do you want to start?
I'll start with Hailey Whitters because, all right, so last year I talked effusively about Hailey Whitters' record. I thought it was one of the better country records I'd heard in a while. I was really impressed by her voice and her range of kinds of songs that she was able to pack into one record. I introduced it to you and the doctor. You both liked it. She's kind of this, like, my initial impression of her is like, oh, she's kind of like got a little bit of a Casey Musgraves delivery, as well as a little bit of that kind of progressive attitude, combined with a more traditional sensibility a la Miranda Lambert, like really good, like middle ground kind of artist. And I was like, cool, this is great. So Raised takes a few steps back from that. And
oh no,
I was a little disappointed with it because of it. So whereas the last record, which I believe was called The Dream, whereas The Dream felt like like more Casey Musgraves style, like let's approach some familiar country territory, but with a modern edge to it. Well, throw the modern edge out the door, because this is her being like, actually, I'm going to embrace the country mainstream.
Ooh, so I think she saw what happened to Casey Musgraves.
I think she did. And she, instead of what Casey Musgraves was basically, I'm going to be only slightly country and kind of largely shed that for something larger. Haley is double downing on the country. She's like, no, I'm going to make a traditional country album with all of the baggage that entails. So let me ask you some questions. Do you like songs about your hometown? Do you like songs about the boys like driving their trucks and being farmers? Do you like talking about like, oh, you go to college and maybe you lose your way, but you come back home and learn that you were wrong to change your mind about things?
Only when it's coming from Eric Church.
Well, this is very similar.
It's that album.
To that. Not to say that this is Eric Church, because I feel like even Eric Church is more progressive than this record.
Yes.
I don't know what happened. I don't know. It's like a year passes and all of a sudden Haley realizes, well, if I'm going to really make it in this 10-year town, then maybe I need to like be a little bit more conservative, because that's what this feels like.
Oh no.
However, the good news here, that's the bad news. The good news here, though, is that the actual sound on this record, still some of the most pristine sounding, well-produced country you're going to hear in a while. One thing she is taking from Casey is Casey's records have raised the bar production-wise. This follows that. So it sounds wonderful. And it still sounds like the kind of country music that they stopped making in the 2000s. Like, this does not have any of the affected alternative rock kind of stylings that you get when you move into the Jason Aldean era. Mm-hmm. This is still very much a country record like they used to make, which is cool. And I'm glad. And that's the part that I enjoy. The first like 3 or 4 tracks, I was like, all right, this is great. But once she goes back to the old hometown, like, well, 1, 2, 14 too many times, I want to say this is a very long record, or at least if it's not a very long record, it feels like a long record.
I think it's like 40 minutes.
It's like 45 minutes, but like it feels longer because of how many songs just retread the same old ground. So by the end of it, I was exhausted. I was just like, all right, Haley, like you're good at what you do. Your voice is still impeccable. This production in your band is great. But if you're going to talk about country living for another 5 songs, I'm falling asleep over here.
Make it interesting.
So I feel like you will probably have a better time with this record than I will, because I feel like your patience level for that kind of subject matter is probably way higher than mine. And this is going to play so well for the Stagecoach crowd.
I feel like, well, one, she's going to be there too.
Yeah.
I feel like it sounds like this
that.
album one is going to be made for that, but also that you wanted her to take the Miranda Lambert wildcard route,
I really
where it's
did.
Very country, but also very modern.
Yeah, and it's not that the songs don't sound modern, because they definitely do, but it's the subject matter is just so boring. And I was surprised how many times I was like, from The Dream, which at some point lyrically even felt progressive, this does not at all. Like I said, that one specifically that stuck in my craw was there's a song about like a college-age girl who goes out to college and comes back home. And there's this line that really stuck with me for the wrong reasons is like, yeah, she her mind starts to change about things. She starts being a free thinker, but then it's okay because she comes home and her parents remind her where she came from. And I'm just thinking like, hold on, Haley, what are you saying here? Are you saying that these new highfalutin ideas? No, she's wrong and she should be told she's wrong. Like, no, let the girl have free thought. Let the girl like evolve. Like, let the girl figure out her life. I don't know. It just rubbed me really weird for an artist that, like I said, had felt progressive to me. And so like, all right, okay, if this is who she wants to be, if this is the image she wants to like project, then all power to her, because honestly, I think that this might be her breakthrough because of it. I think this is going to get her to a wider country audience. It's going to get her on country radio, for better or for worse.
Well, I'll definitely be listening to it.
Stagecoach
maybe on the golf course
might be her breakthrough moment. I think this is a Stagecoach record. 100%. She made the thing that she needed to make for her career, which I can't blame her for. But to me, I'm a little let down by it. But it's still good. I'm not going to say it's bad. It's still a good country record. It's just that for my personal taste, it's not what I wanted her to evolve into.
Okay.
Anyway, moving on. Speaking of evolving, Charlie XCX. Media boat favorite, I guess you could say. Charlie XCX.
I like that last album.
Yeah.
This was very poppy, very disco-y.
We both enjoyed. Well, you're talking about the one before that.
Yes.
Because,
she came out with one in between. Did I miss?
Remember my favorite album of 2020?
Yes.
How I'm Feeling Now, which you did not like.
No.
So
Split.
Here's the good news about Crash, her new record. Largely, she is leaving that abrasive PC music produced hyper pop sound behind. Largely, this is a return to form, or at least what a lot of people will call a return to form, as this is mostly a pop record again. And also the good news is, unlike Charlie, the self-titled record that we talked about 2 years ago, it's not packed with features like that record was. One of the problems I had with that record was that I want to hear more Charlie. Why is there a guest artist on every single one of these tracks? This finds a balance between two of those worlds. It finds Charlie doing more of the songs herself in more of a pop mode. There's a couple songs that sound like Dua Lipa, for instance. There's a couple songs that heavily sample existing pop songs that you'll be like, oh, that's fun. That's a fun way to interpolate this track. And there are even a couple of songs that borrow some of that electronic sound from How I'm Feeling Now. And all in a blender, which sounds like, oh, is this kind of like an all over the place mess of a record? Turns out, no, she managed to make all of this sound pretty uniform. I feel like Crash feels like a united album. It feels like a piece of itself. And I think it's really good. I think you'll have a good time with this. I was even telling Christy who's bounced off of Charlie around the Pop 2 era when she started to experiment with electronic stuff. I think this is, like I said, it's a return to form for a lot of people. I think a lot of people will listen to this and be like, oh, Charlie's back. It's like, oh, she's...
I think I remember that last album now is very electronic and heavy beat and synthesized all over the place.
And this is less of that. There's a little bit of that, but this is less of that. I think this is, again, just like Haley, I think this is a return to radio sound. I think that Charlie could have a single here. Like it's returning that much to that kind of more traditional, I guess you could say, pop sound, but without sacrificing the things that make Charlie Charlie. There's still a lot of experimentation. There's still a lot of fun sounds. There's still a lot of cute lyrical moments. The one thing that I think is a little bit of a step back from How I'm Feeling Now, which was a very personal record, because obviously it was made in the pandemic and wanted to talk about her relationship and really get insular about that kind of era of her life. This is less personal. In fact, there's only really one song, the song Twice, that ends the record that feels like Charlie is talking to you about how she feels. So I was a little disappointed because I really like that Charlie. I really like when she's introspective. And so losing a little bit of that for the more widescreen arena-friendly pop, a little disappointing. But overall, though, the record's so good that I don't really care. And I think that it's definitely a highlight. Easily one of the best pop records of the year. Check out Crash. I think you'll have a good time with it. Like I said, Dua Lipa vibes on a few of the songs.
Well, I'm seeing Dua Lipa in a couple days here.
Right, so get ready. Put this on in the car ride, and I think it'll give you the pump up vibes you want.
Right.
Then last but not least, just an EP to talk about real briefly. We talked about Gail in the top 5. Her ABCDEFU is climbing the charts and is a TikTok favorite. She put out an EP of that song plus 4 others, and just kind of trying to ride the kind of Olivia Rodrigo wave of young up-and-coming pop singers. Except with a twist I wasn't expecting. Hey, remember early 2000s Pink?
Yeah.
You know how Pink had that a little bit lower voice, kind of that growl to her voice, and leaned more into rock sounds? Well, guess what? Gail is the new Pink. I'm going to say it right now. This EP sounds like early Pink. And I was like, wow, her voice is that kind of got that effectiveness to it. And the way she writes is very similar to Pink, where it's got that kind of cynical edge to it. there's a lot of really great, like, funny lyrics here. Like, Gail is funny, turns out. Like, and she really shows off with some of the, I wish I could remember some of the lines, but I definitely found myself like, oh shit, okay. But yeah, I think it's fun. Not necessarily for me. Of course, I don't really like Pink that much. But if you were that person who was like, when like, Don't Let Me Get Me was on that radio, and you're like, oh shit, she's talking to me. I think this is like, this will remind you of your youth. Also, for teenagers, it's a good cathartic rock sound compared to a lot more of the poppy women that surround her in the same kind of era, like in this TikTok fueled era. So yeah, I was surprised by the Gale EP. It's good. It's not necessarily something I'm going to go back to, but I think a lot of people will find a fun, new, like fresh sounding voice with Gale.
All right, so Gale Pink duet at the Grammys.
Yeah, I honestly, dude, bring back MTV not Crossroads. What was the thing where they brought legacy artists to sing with new artists? I forget what that was. Maybe that's just the Grammys. Actually, no, Grammys. So yeah, maybe you're right.
That is the Grammys. So they always do that.
Do that with the Grammys. Then I would think that would be a perfect fit. So yeah, that's what I listened to this week.
Also, I think it is MTV Crossroads.
Yeah, but I think that's CNT Crossroads was because they brought in like pop artists to sing with country artists. So that's not what this is. But
okay, because you might be confusing with the Britney Spears movie Crossroads in your head.
I'm never thinking about the Britney Spears movie Crossroads.
Except now all of you are thinking about the Britney Spears movie Crossroads.
We made you do that. But yeah, that's all I listened to this week. Like I said, we'll talk about Maren Morris next week. Hopefully, I'll enjoy that more than Haley.
Yep. Yeah. Next week I will listen to Maren Morris. We'll get my thoughts quickly on Haley Witters.
Yeah, listen to Crash and see what you think.
Yep. And then, like I said, between this week and next week, I will be attending a Dua Lipa concert.
Yeah.
One of the oldest people there, aside from moms.
I doubt it. No. I feel like there's going to be a lot of people in their 30s.
Oh, that's what we're hoping.
Going days.
Yep. That's what we're hoping for.
Yeah. Anyway.
I
think we can move on then, unless you listen to anything this week.
Nothing new. I know that much.
All
right. So let's move into video games. And we start with new releases. And we have a Rune Factory 5 for the Switch.
Yep.
A Memoir Blue for everything.
Yep.
And Ghostwire: Tokyo for the PS5 and PC.
Yeah.
And that's it.
Nope. Two big releases this week.
Okay.
Not mentioned.
All right. Double drop this week.
Yeah. Well, Ghostwire Tokyo also a pretty big deal. So I would say triple drop.
Triple drop? Yeah, okay. Double big drop. 2 huge franchises.
Yes.
The first one for the Switch.
Yes.
The second one for everything else.
Yeah, pretty much.
All right. So Kirby and the Forgotten Land.
So excited to dig into this. Already have it pre-ordered. So yeah, I will definitely talk about this next week.
And then I have Tiny Tina's Wonderlands based off the Borderlands Bunkers and Badasses DLC.
We will also both talk about this next week. I have it on my gameplay queue, so hopefully that'll come in time. So maybe not actually, because I usually get those on Saturdays.
Yep.
But yeah, Tiny Tina's Wonderlands. I like Borderlands, but 3 was a little bit of a disappointment. Hopefully this does some interesting enough stuff to warrant its own release.
So because this is the spin-off of Borderlands, it's going to play like Borderlands, but have all the comedy of Magic and D&D.
Yeah, tabletop RPGs.
RPGs, yeah. All those kind of jokes and fantasy stuff and randomness attached to it.
Yeah, in an era in which we've now spent like 30 plus hours listening to Ashley Birch voice a very serious Aloy, it'll be weird to hear Tiny Tina again.
Ashley Birch is completely enigmatic, crazy.
I already have that moment every Saturday morning lately because she's also the lead character in The Ghost and Molly McGee.
Yeah.
So it's really funny to play a week's worth of Horizon and then go to that, and then Christy will be like, I can't believe that's the same girl. I'm like, yeah, it's the same girl. It's 2 very different modes. It's funny. She has such range.
Oh, then watch Mythic Quest. She's completely different there.
Right. So weird. Anyway. Yeah, we'll play both of those and we'll talk about those next week.
Yep. I'm still debating on which one I want, but I want first. Kirby. Might be Kirby first.
Kirby. Kirby's gonna be shorter. I
It
can
might,
tell you that.
well, one, it'll be shorter, but two, it won't take up my PS5 because Kirby's still with Horizon.
Yeah, and you don't have to bore Kristen with it. You can play it on the Switch by yourself.
Yep, and maybe she can play it too. She likes
It is
Kirby.
co-op, so yeah.
It is co-op, but she likes Kirby.
Play a little bit of that with Christy. She likes it too.
Yep.
Anyways,
let's get to video game news. Yes. And one game you weren't playing this week,
at least for 30 hours.
At least for 30 hours, was Gran Turismo 7.
Yes.
Because this week, the recently launched
yes.
big release Gran Turismo 7.
Old game, Gran Turismo 7.
The servers were offline for more than a day.
Yeah.
So the servers initially went down on Thursday for an update maintenance.
Yes.
And were supposed to return 2 hours later.
Yeah.
However, they were down 29 hours.
And there was no update until basically the last minute.
Yep. There's no update on when they're supposed to be online. Quote, due to an issue found in update 1.07, we will be extending the server maintenance period. That GT7 Twitter account posted.
Their Twitter account posted,
yeah. A few hours after the game was supposed to go back online. Quote, we will notify everyone as soon as possible when this is likely to be completed. We apologize for this inconvenience and ask for your patience while we work to resolve the issue.
Important note here, if you're sitting at home wondering, wait a minute, isn't this a single-player game? Why would the servers being down prevent you from playing it? That's because even though it's a single-player game, Gran Turismo 7 is an always online game, which means that if the servers are down, you can't even play it because it's always constantly doing a check to see if you have downloadable cars, et cetera, et cetera.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, a lot of people, a lot of fans of the GT series were very upset. And it was like kind of one of those horror stories of people who always talk about like the fears of always online games. It's exactly what they're always talking about. It's the thing that they've been talking about for a decade now.
It was the thing when Xbox came out and said, hey, always online. And everyone freaked out.
Those people felt vindicated this week.
Yeah, here it is happening to Sony, always online.
It happened. It finally happened. I mean, no, is one day being away from a game a deal breaker? Probably not, but I can understand.
But if that's the one time, or if that's the one time you have to play the game the entire week.
Yeah, if you're coming home from work on Thursday night and you're like, all right,
I bought this game,
got my racing wheel. I'm like, I'm all set to play some GT. Oh, I can't play it at all. Oh, okay. What am I gonna do? Okay. Yeah.
Fine, I guess I'll go back to Elden Ring.
Right, I guess play more Elden Ring.
Or Horizon.
God forbid.
Or Arceus.
So yeah, I don't know. Guess I'll talk to my family.
Who does that anymore? You text everywhere.
Right. So yeah, it's silly and maybe a good example for devs about why maybe this is not the greatest idea in the world, but it's rare and it's probably, if they have their way, will never happen again.
Oh yeah, I mean, like I said, this is a typical maintenance issue.
Yeah.
They probably updated it. They were doing some testing. I've gone through this with my company where someone asks, hey, why don't we test this feature? It has one connection to it, but let's just test it just in case. And then someone found a bug. I was like, hey, this isn't working. Is this supposed to be working correctly? All right, let's call people up. Let's see if we can get some people in here to see if this is supposed to be working correctly. And that's typically where delays happen.
Right. Speaking of things not happening.
Yeah, speaking of things not happening, E3 is happening still. But let me finish.
Yeah.
Electronic Arts, EA, has confirmed it will
that EA.
Okay. Yes, that EA. It will not.
Trip Hawkins, 3DO. Got it.
It has confirmed it won't be holding its traditional Electronic Arts Play Live
EA Play
event
Live. Not happening.
in 2022. Rather than host a major product showcase event this summer, the company looks set to spread its game reveals throughout the year.
Mm-hmm.
An EA spokesperson told IGN, quote, we love EA Play Live as it's our way of connecting with our players and sharing what's new with all of you.
Sure.
However, this year's things aren't lining up to show you everything on one date. We have exciting things happening at our world-class studios, and this year we'll reveal much more about these projects when the time is right for each of them. We at EA look forward to spending time with you, the customer, throughout the year 2022.
Yeah, I mean...
Oh, do you smell all that EA bullshit?
We've talked about this for the last couple of years. Bullshit or not bullshit, this is the new normal. It's studios finally realizing we don't have to make these like stupid deadlines for our teams, make them crunch ridiculous hours to make a dumb date where we put on a show. Like they realized, like, no, we could give ourselves more time. Nobody really cares.
People who are going to buy the product are going to buy the product anyways. Right. People who are going to see the demo aren't going to see it on a EA Play Origin console exclusive. No, they're going to go to like see a demo on the PlayStation or the Xbox or the Switch or the PC.
But even more so, it's like they're realizing like if we're doing these on live streams on the internet anyways, we don't have to do it for any specific date. So yeah, I didn't really include the story as, oh my God, EA is not going to announce their new shit. Who cares? No, what this story represents, though, is that we're continuing into this era of publishers are just going to announce their shit whenever they want now. Like this is what it is now. The pandemic has forever changed how news rollouts are going to be. It's no longer the 2 times a year thing it used to be, like E3 Game Awards, E3 Game Awards. You don't have
TGS PAX.
TGS there's more, of course, but you know what I mean.
Yeah, the big ones.
Big ones
for the US.
But now even those are not going to be your big dates. There's no E3 this year, for instance, as we talked about for like a few months ago. Like it's not like
it's a new internet age.
It's whenever they want to show their thing, they're going to show their thing, and they have the complete freedom to do it whenever they want.
Case and point on Thursday.
Yes.
Hogwarts Legacy reveal.
I didn't have that in the news this week because I was like, Harry Potter.
Well, it's just a reveal, but
I mean, that game looks like what everybody thought that game was going to be. Like, big what to do, but they had the chance to show it, so they did. Like, it's that kind of thing. It's like it's just going to be throughout the year. And to me, as somebody who loves video games, that's better, right?
Yeah.
I don't want to have to wait till July to get everything that I want. Like, just drip feed me all year long, and then it's like, oh, cool.
We have had drip feed. We had Nintendo and Pokemon like 2 weeks ago.
Right.
We had an actual like indie dev state of play like 2 weeks ago as well, or 3 weeks ago before that. Then this week we had Hogwarts Legacy state of play specifically for it for 20 minutes. Just drip feed that stuff.
Right, yeah. Just keep it going. Just constant serotonin all year.
Everyone's going to be like, I hate to say this, but all the video game industry players are finally playing well together in this constant feed of drip news.
Yeah.
That they'll each get their own week instead of trying to fight over each other. For the 1 month that is E3.
Yeah. Anyway, I just thought it was just a continued trend going into probably forever, probably the future right there.
Yep.
Anyway.
Hey, I'm fine with that.
No video game thoughts this week. I mean, we're continuing to slog through Horizon.
One big thing about Horizon, which we knew going into the game, that it was going to be big and a while to complete. But oh man, what are we? A month now into it?
We're a month into it. We're both like level 32, 33. We're like not even close, either of us. I'm even further back than he is because I was just doing side quests and filling out the map. So like, that thing is going to be probably another month in the tank for me at least.
Exactly.
So geez, the game that just keeps on giving, but I'm still having a good time with it.
That's the important part is that we're still having fun. We still want to go back to that well. There's so much to do.
Speaking of going back to the well, did you go back to any Elden Ring this week?
Nope. That's actually
it's hot.
That's the game. I did once.
Yeah.
Because I saw someone online do a speed run of it in 30 minutes. I was like, hey, I'll try that.
Did not work out for you?
Did not work out because I was not running fast enough. I kept wanting to watch all the cutscenes.
I mean, let me know when you're done with that disc because maybe I'll give it a spin. I don't know. I feel like I'm curious enough to try it for like a couple hours, and then if I'm not liking it, then I'll bail. But like, I just want to see what's up. Just want to see what's up with Elden Ring.
Well, we'll talk after.
Yeah, maybe we'll figure something out. Anyway, so yeah, that's pretty much all the video games we played. Like I said, we'll talk about definitely Kirby next week. maybe some Wonderlands, depending on how much time we have with that.
Yep. I will say, Yu-Gi-Oh! Master Duel on my phone.
Still on it?
Not as consistent, not an everyday thing, but it's like,
it's there.
It's there. Like I can get a quick duel in every now and then.
Yeah.
Lose by someone who has an actual better deck because they're actually crafting their deck, and I'm trying to use a starter deck.
Good job. Yeah, actually putting a thought into it.
Yeah, actually putting a thought into it. But I like all the solo mode, challenge modes that they do there.
Yeah, still waiting for that Pokemon equivalent to come out this year. I'm like, it's gonna do dangerous things to me.
Yep.
Anyway. All right, let's move on to the second half of the show with television. We always start television with the Sports Corner. And of course, big sports news. March, it's mad. Madness continues as brackets have got busted this week as 2 upsets happened. St. Peter's has upset Kentucky and Richmond upset Iowa.
That's right. 15-seeded St. Peter's upsets 2-seeded and blue chip school Kentucky.
And while not an upset, but made me upset, I unfortunately saw Cal State Fullerton lose badly to Duke last night.
Oh, were you surprised?
I was not surprised. Neither was Christy, Carolina's native herself. South Carolina, though, for her.
When you draw Duke,
it's like, all right, this is but it was sad to see our hometown heroes. They did okay. They were always within 20 to 30 points away. It was never a crazy
they held their own until the last 5 minutes, and then Duke
just fell apart.
But
also, I was just every time they would approach an opportunity to score, they'd whiff it, and I was just like, this is really painful to watch.
That's why, thankfully, CBS and all those affiliate networks have all the little score boxes up top.
I was like, it's a more interesting game happening over here.
It's a game. Let me just jump over here real quick.
See, that's the thing, is I'm not really a basketball person, so to me, I was like, no, I'm ride or die with this. I want to see how this happens.
I'm not a basketball person either, but I want to see a good ending to a good game.
I mean, also, it was the second disappointing game I saw all day because MLB spring training baseball has started. I watched the opener for the Angels in Arizona.
We got a home run.
Yes, Joe Adell coming out of the gate strong with an amazing looking swing. And hey, one of our new pitchers, Lorenzano, looks great out there. Dude, he's so bulked.
Remember when we drafted 7 pitchers 2 years ago?
Yeah, it's paying off already. 1 game in. Except, of course, I was like, all right, got to get my ring fit in. I won't finish this game, right? Note, when I left the game, it was 8-6. When I'm done working out, it is 8-10. And the Angels have lost. I was like, man. Apparently in the eighth inning, they really came back. And I was like, man, 3 runs in the 8th. Whatever. Anyway, so yes, baseball is back.
Yep, spring training. 2 weeks of spring training.
It felt...
Or 3 weeks, my bad. 3 weeks of spring training.
So good. It felt so good to just watch a game. Yeah. 2.5 weeks.
2.5 weeks.
Oh.
Opening day is April 7th.
I'm already looking at starting to get tickets. We're considering going to game in June when the Red Sox are in town. Thursday night.
Do you guys
June
want
9th?
Well, we'll talk off podcast.
Yeah, we'll talk off mic about that.
I said we have tickets to the Dodgers game.
Oh, right, that's true.
Yes.
So we might think about that. I don't know, because we were like, June's far
but also
away,
because baseball's back, we're gonna look at doing some brunch and baseball.
Oh hell yes!
Brunch and baseball
time. All right, but that's not the only sports happening though, because you sent me a text about the insanity that is the NFL free agency frenzy that's happening right now.
Oh yeah. So before NFL draft, which is next week of all the new rookie players, NFL free agency and the start of the new NFL season has begun. It's upon us.
Yeah.
And people are being traded everywhere.
Yes.
Which means this is the part where we have to say our 2 cents about Deshaun Watson.
All right. What you got?
I hate him. I'm glad you're going to Cleveland. You're going to go die in Cleveland.
Oh, shit.
As your career is going to go die in Cleveland.
We got beef.
That is if you ever make it to the field, as you're still in litigation for 8 different cases.
So there you go. Deshaun Watson, you heard.
Not only that, but
Meetup Podcast got your ass.
Yeah, except he also got $230 million guaranteed, the highest in the NFL. Oh, and then some shit about Tom Brady deciding he doesn't want to be a dad anymore.
I guess we didn't talk about that. Man, this has been a week in sports, huh?
Let me just read.
We didn't even talk about when we talk about baseball. We didn't even talk about the wild trades happening there too.
Oh no, like Freddie Freeman went to the Dodgers.
We didn't talk about the Dodgers freaking like being the most like star-studded team on the earth. And in comparison, the Oakland A's disintegrating.
Yes, both Max left the Oakland A's.
Yeah, what the hell? It was a Matt apocalypse over there.
It was a madhouse. Well, it's no longer a madhouse now.
Yeah, it's wild. Like, just some of the trades happening. Like, but yeah, the Dodgers look unbeatable.
Yep. Russell Wilson went to the Broncos. Yeah. Devontae Adams went to the Raiders. Carson Wentz, finally out of Indy, went to the Commanders.
Yeah.
Amari Cooper out of Dallas.
So I guess the lesson here is, regardless of what sport you're following right now, if trades are happening, your team is likely affected. So check your your charts there. Check your team because something wild just happened.
Oh yeah, and the Rams picked up Allen Robinson for some reason. Crazy.
So chaos in sports.
Chaos in sports.
Any other sports chaos we need to talk about before we move on?
Yes, hockey continues to be hockey. And being chaos everywhere.
Yeah. How are the Kraken doing? I haven't been following.
Oh, they're struggling.
They're struggling?
Yeah. But then again, so are the Golden Knights.
Oh, shit.
They may not make the playoffs. They're like 5 games out.
How are your Kings? Kings
we're in second place in the West.
Oh, hell yeah.
Hell yeah. We got we got pretty secure.
All right, cool.
But, we still got to win games.
Yeah, that's important.
It's important.
Let's move on then out of sports and into...
NBA.
Oh, yeah, basketball.
Continues as well.
Non-college, professional basketball.
Yes. Both professional and amateur.
Right.
Yeah, because... Oh, are they technically amateurs if they are getting paid due to NIL?
I don't know.
That's a gray area there.
The NCAA is also trying to figure that out.
Yeah, that's a gray area there, huh?
Anyway, let's move on into television news while we are steamrolling through this podcast. I like this. Let's talk about animation because, hey, the Annie Awards happened. If you don't know what those are, they, of course, are the Oscar equivalent for the animation scene. Both film and television animation gets awarded here. Netflix had a big night. Mitchells versus the Machines was your big winner in the film categories, with Netflix's Arcane, that would be the television show based on
League of Legends.
Characters from League of Legends, dominated the television categories. Arcane led all winners with 9 trophies overall, including general production TV. It won in each of the categories for which it was nominated, including Ella Purnell for voice acting, writing, and then for voice acting, also for writing, animated effects, character animation, character design, production design, storyboarding, and directing. If you've seen even 5 minutes of that show, you can see why. It just looks incredible. Do I want to watch it ever? No, but it's a nice thing to look at. Meanwhile, media vote favorite, The Mitchells versus the Machine, won victory in the marquee best feature race, which also makes it a front runner leading to the Oscars next month. So fingers crossed.
Yep, it beat Encanto.
Yeah. We'll see if it can do the same thing to a classically Disney-loving voting populace for the Oscars. I don't know if it can. That's not where my money is what I'm saying. Last year, speaking of money, next Sunday, lockdown, or no, this Sunday.
This Sunday.
You have a day. You have a day to lock down your predictions.
Yep.
I got to look at that again today. Last year, the eventual animated Oscar winner Soul from Pixar won the top Annie, which is the 14th time in 20 years that the Society for the Annies and the Academy have matched their top picks. So if you're a betting person, keep that in mind.
The odds are in their favor.
The film also won directing, writing, voice acting for Abby Jacobson. Oh, congratulations, Abby. Editing, animated effects, media vote favorite, Abby Jacobson. Animated effects, character design, and production design. So congratulations to Arcane and Mitchells vs. the Machines.
Broad City, getting it done.
Wow. One thing I do have to say, though, is kind of disappointed for the Disney animated television show Amphibia and Owl House getting kind of shut out by Arcane. Disappointed because I know they were both up for awards here. I would have loved to see them get some credit for the amazing runs that they had last year.
Yes, but you also realize that Arcane had the unique art style.
But still, come on.
And the delved rich backstory for one season.
For fucking Amphibia's True Colors by itself, it should have won something.
Yes, you're right.
Which I just watched it again with Christy.
It's so good.
It's just still such an amazing finale to that second season. Both Amphibia and Owl House are back today, by the way. If you're listening to this while recording it, Saturday the 19th. Check out Disney Channel. They were both having their premieres today for the second half of their season 3s, I believe.
Yeah, we're in season 3.
So, or season 2, I believe, for Owl House. So yeah, go check that out. That was the Annie Awards.
Congratulations to the Annie Awards.
Yeah.
Congratulations to Netflix winning on both TV and film side. We'll see if any of that translates to Oscar and Emmy Gold.
But speaking of Netflix, they're in our little bucket of streaming bits this week for not so great reasons. They've had a week. I might as well just start with them. First off, they're soon launching a test letting primary account holders pay an additional fee if Netflix figures out there are users outside their households, which of course is a new attempt by the company to address illicit password sharing. So we knew that they were looking into ways to get around the password sharing that everybody does with Netflix. And this is one of the things they're trying out. They're basically
what do you mean everybody does?
Prompt.
I don't know.
Holier than thou.
Yeah.
This basically means that if you log in, you might get a notification saying, hey, we noticed that there's other people using your account. Do you want to maybe kick us some money? You want to kick us some money to pay for those? It's weird. I don't know if it forces you into that situation or not. I'm not really sure how it works because I have not gotten this prompt.
Right, because we don't share passwords
yeah,
outside.
Of course not. We would never do that.
Yes.
You wouldn't download a car. You wouldn't share a password to a car, would you? Anyway, so yeah, I don't know. It's stupid. They're also you don't have this, but they're also
the Russia thing.
The other big thing that happened. So we'll talk about this later when we talk about. Actually, we won't. You don't have it. Then I guess I do have to talk about it here.
What?
The Netflix canceled fan favorite, The Babysitters Club, this week.
I thought we talked about that last week.
No, we didn't. That elicited an interview with the creator, in which the creator of Babysitters Club. I don't think so.
Because it was like
last week.
Baby. Well, because the news said it was like last Friday.
Well, regardless of whether
the
we
18th.
talked about it,
that's why I thought
regardless, the interview came out with the creator, basically breaking down how she felt like there's a little bit of a double standard in Netflix, where stuff that is successful by all metrics when you compare to other streaming services like HBO Max are not successful for Netflix. Netflix is constantly looking for the next big thing, your next Squid Game, and so thus is more willing to cancel something that has a very strong critical and audience support because it's not big, because it's not as big as they want it to be.
No, it's because it doesn't reach. It's because they don't own the IP. One, they don't know IP for it.
Too.
But two, because it doesn't reach outside of viewing.
Yeah.
If you notice Squid Game, it reached into YouTube, into parody, into all that stuff. If it doesn't, same thing with what is it? The show I don't like.
There could be a lot of shows.
Yeah, Stranger Things.
Stranger Things, yes.
How that led into video games, board games, pop figures.
Right.
Outside revenue from the show.
I get what Netflix is saying. What I'm saying is that sucks.
And it definitely sucks.
A lot of people,
I'm not saying that it's good.
I'm
just saying it's a business.
Yes, I know. But one of the things that happened this week was from that interview became like basically the gates opened for everybody to talk about, like, oh yeah, in this show, here's all these examples of things that Netflix just gave up on. And it sucks because like it's super popular. Like she even said, like, numbers wise, if you look at even the most successful show on HBO Max, it was still doing worse than Babysitters Club was doing on Netflix. So it's like, what the hell? Like, what are you doing? Why are you cutting these shows off at the knees when they're like super popular? Like, what are you doing? Like, I get it. You're not going to get like TikTok numbers in China. Like, but still, like, that's not what, like, Netflix is doing it wrong, is what I'm saying. It's like they should embrace both of these things. They should embrace all levels of success, not just the world-shattering numbers. Because if they focus on those few shows that break through, people are going to drop their Netflix accounts. No one will care. And they're taking a risk here. I think that this is a little peek into the future of ultimately when Netflix does fail, is I think that it's when they give up on the shows that people like.
Or when those shows go to other streaming services because deals are up.
Yeah, so we'll see if but yeah, it just sucks. I just want to mention that was kind of a big television story this week that we almost didn't talk about. So yeah, important to note. But meanwhile,
Speaking of Netflix shows that are leaving.
So Netflix shows that used to be on Netflix moving to a different channel include, like we talked about briefly last week, the Marvel shows. So this includes Marvel content that was on Netflix as Daredevil and everything that sprung from Daredevil.
Yep,
like Jessica Jones.
The Defenders universe.
Yes, and all those shows.
Luke Cage, Iron Fist, The Defenders,
those
and
will now
Punisher.
Have a new home on Disney Plus. And if you log into Disney Plus this week, you might notice it is now giving you a prompt asking, hey, are you an adult? So yeah, this is because this content marks the first TVMA rated content on the service. Well, besides content flagged stuff like Get Back, which also had occasional things, and I believe the Folklore doc.
Because
I believe the Folklore doc does actually like they do not edit
some
songs in that. So yeah, besides those two things, this is the first time that Disney is like, all right,
the long pawn sessions.
So yeah, so it is now age gating and will allow you to age gate the content if you do have children. So there you go. So yeah, if you ever wanted to catch up on all those shows, which from what I understand have a big ramp down in quality as it goes on, especially Iron Fist, which nobody liked.
Yes, you say that. Except Disney has announced that they were looking to add a season 2 Daredevil for exclusively Disney Plus because of
that was the
Charlie Cox. Once the one people liked to, because Charlie Cox showed up in Spider-Man No Way Home, and then Vincent D'Onofrio showed up in Hawkeye. That, hey, this is a thing. We're trying to make this canon now.
Exactly.
Which they are also brought in the entirety of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., all 7 seasons, and that buffoonery of TV writing and loops and limos that they have to maneuver to say, hey, this is all relevant, but also it's not big enough for a movie. But we still need some kind of world-ending stakes somewhere. It'll be interesting to see if Doctor Strange Multiverse of Madness ties in any of this stuff, as we'll see in May in 2 short months.
You'll see what they end up doing with that mess.
Oh.
Speaking of mess, or at least cleaning up a mess, I will say, the other shoe is dropped with Discovery and Warner. They finally have confirmed its plans to combine Discovery Plus and HBO Max into one service, rather than the Disney Plus approach, offering 2 platforms as a bundle. So this will not be like separate price for both of them or one price for 2 separate logins. They're just going to roll it all into HBO Max is what I imagine.
Oh yeah.
Which is great news for people who maybe liked Discovery Plus in theory, but didn't like paying $10 a month for it by itself.
Are you looking at me? Because yes, that is me.
I'm also looking at myself because I was also this person. Like, yes, would it be great to have every episodes of Diners, Drive-Ins, and Dives at my fingertips? Yeah, it would be. But do I want to pay a separate amount for it with its own login? God, no. So yeah, I'm glad that they're just going to roll everything into HBO Max. So that's good news.
Yes, and yes, that's not just the Food Network. That's all the ABC shows, the home building shows, A&E. I think TLC's in there as well. Stuff. All that fun stuff.
So real briefly, to wrap up the bits here, one thing you don't have that I want to talk about real briefly. Other streaming service news, Paramount Plus. If you're curious at all about it, and you're also a Microsoft Xbox Game Pass Ultimate subscriber, right now it is a special Game Pass perk for a 30-day trial for Paramount Plus if you go through their thing. So log into your Xbox if you have Game Pass, check it out. Gives you a full 30-day trial for Paramount Plus if you want to try it out. So check it out. If you want to watch Halo, this is how you can watch Halo.
Ooh, can we talk about Halo even though we didn't watch it?
I didn't watch Halo, but if you want to talk about Halo.
So, I want to talk about how the internet's bashing Halo
so let's move into thoughts, I guess, starting with your thoughts about Halo, like Mr. Halo's face.
Oh, yes. I just sent you Mr. Halo's face.
You sent me Mr. Halo's face. So sorry, yes. John, a.k.a. Master Chief, has now been revealed. They took his helmet off in the television show.
Which is the one thing I said they shouldn't do.
And he's the most generic white guy I've ever seen.
Default characters.
He's literally default created character.
Default created character.
I told you.
The internet has had a field day with this.
I told you I always imagined Master Chief was black, and boy, am I wrong.
Yeah, with the deep voice.
Yeah, check out, right?
I mean, I figured that was just a voice modulator that That way, anyone can be under the helmet and not
he talks like this.
Generic white guy.
This is just his voice. I need a weapon.
The Covenant. The Flood.
Finish the fight. Anyway, sorry. Yes, his face.
Yes. Anyways, yes, very generic white guy.
So what is the internet saying about him?
So there was an interview.
Sucks, right?
One, it sucks. Two, there's an interview done with, I think it was Variety, with the showrunner.
All right.
And he basically said that we didn't watch or we didn't play Halo games. We didn't use that as our source material. So what ends up being is a generic space marine epic with a Halo skin thrown on top of it.
Right, yeah.
And that's what people didn't want.
Right.
That's what people feared when they first started this.
Yeah.
And the fears have come true.
I mean, what did we expect it to be, honestly?
Like, well, you got the guy from The Expanse who just wanted to do another thing of The Expanse.
So do you think does this bode badly for the God of War adaptation? Because we know Expanse people are involved in that too.
Maybe.
Oh no!
I don't know.
It's just gonna be
like it could
Greek
be
god shit.
Greek god shit.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, obviously, I never had any sort of inkling that Halo was going to be good. I mean, those stories will not translate. Even if they did try to translate the stories from the video games into television, it wouldn't work. So I guess I commend them to a certain extent for doing something original, just doing a sci-fi story with it. But at least make it watchable. Like, at least make it something that's like, oh, well, this is at least a good one of those. But the fact is, it sounds like it's even a bad one of those, which means they whipped it on both counts. They made something that Halo fans don't want, and also sci-fi fans don't want.
Yep.
So what's the point? Yeah, you're right. So like maybe it's good that we're not watching Halo.
What's on my radar anyways?
But what are you watching? Because you watched a couple of things this week.
Yeah. So let's start with the spin-off first, because we'll get to your thoughts on Winning Time.
I don't really have much to say about it.
Oh, I thought you did.
You watched more of it than I did.
Yeah, I watched the second episode at least. Okay. All right, let's start with that one first then. Adam McKay.
Yeah, well, let's talk about Winning Time. So yeah, I watched 10 minutes of this. I was like, man, this is Adam McKay, and I turned it off. You, however, lasted through.
I lasted through 2 episodes of Winning Time.
Winning Time.
Winning Time.
Lakers.
I like the Lakers. I love the Lakers. I like this whole era dynasty of
the LA Lakers and also the LA Leakers.
Yes, of getting Irvin Magic Johnson.
Yes.
To the Lakers and becoming the winning dynasty from Jerry Buss. I didn't realize how much Jerry Buss was going to be in here.
Oh yeah, it seems
John C. Reilly
is
about
the
him.
Thing. Yes. It's about his character.
Yeah, well, it's based off the book Showtime, which is about Jerry Buss buying the Lakers and turning into what it is.
Yeah, exactly.
But you're right. It does do the whole Adam McKay thing of
talk to the camera.
I want to talk directly to the camera.
Right.
Do the inside track here of what's about to happen.
Yeah.
Or of how I really think about these people, even though we're like trying to save face here. And it does take you out of it.
Uh-huh.
How much of that do you actually like? Like, it is constant.
Right.
Yeah. It is everybody who does this.
So it seems like your appreciation for that little quirk of Adam McKay's work will maybe be your like litmus test to how much you enjoy this.
Yeah. But also, it's not clean, but that's on purpose. So the way it's shot is a very docu-esque series set in the 70s. So it's very grainy. It's very unclean.
On purpose. It's supposed to look like it's taking place in the 70s to 80s.
Yeah. And then randomly it'll cut to some 4x3 8mm film.
Yeah. Just because.
Just so like, hey, see, like this actually happened. Roll the tape. Someone was filming this.
So yeah, I was curious about that because from the beginning it seems like okay, this is a fiction. Like this feels like a fictional interpretation of real life events.
Even in the beginning, they say it's a fictionalized interpretation of the events.
At the same time, it seems like they're trying to have their cake and eat it too a little bit because it does kind of have moments of like all of a sudden it's a documentary. So are they trying to do both?
It definitely feels like they're trying to do both.
Yeah.
Of make it a Hollywood story, like none of this actually happened. Most of it actually happened. We just need to condense some stuff to make it palatable.
Okay.
but at the same time, they're shooting it like a very documentary style. But even then, it breaks because it breaks from the single camera angle to the multi-camera angle. It's a weird show. At least it's
yeah, I wish they had picked one direction to go with it.
Yeah.
Because do you want to actually do a documentary, say like Last Dance this, and actually talk about what happened? Or do you want to make an Adam McKay movie out of it? And I feel like they broke even with that idea. They're like, well, it has to be a series because it's too long to be a movie. And then also, we want it to be funny in that Adam McKay style.
Well, so that's why you get Adam McKay.
So we have to do it stylized. But I feel like doing it stylized sacrifices so much of what it could be. Like I was talking about last week, which is like, if this was more straightforward, if this was just telling me about the events, I'd probably love it. But it's not that. They sacrifice too much of what that could be for making it a prestige-y comedy. And I'm like, I don't want that.
It's also an hour long, so it's not really a comedy. It's a dramedy.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what the hell they're trying to do with it.
Like you said, they want their cake and eat it too.
Yeah, I guess so.
I mean, I'll continue watching it, but I'm curious to see what the doctor or the Bill think of this.
Your mileage may vary.
Yeah, especially on your love or hate of the Lakers and
Adam McKay.
Adam McKay.
So there you go. That's winning time on HBO and HBO Max.
Yep.
Anyway,
I watched another thing.
Okay.
On Netflix, spinoff on Netflix.
Yeah, what is this?
Human Resources is the spinoff from Big Mouth.
It's also your favorite team at your job.
Yep. In Big Mouth, they have the hormone monster. But throughout the seasons, they bring in other different fantasy creatures who represent the different type of feelings and emotions.
Yeah.
Within that people use to grow up.
Yeah.
And have in them, whatever. Like love bugs, logic rocks, hormone monsters are back.
Sure.
So Human Resources is the spinoff of Big Mouth, where it's more focused on that world,
right,
of the human resources.
So sounds a little inside outy in concept.
A little, yeah, it is very inside outy in concept.
All right, okay.
Where they work.
Their jobs are
to help the humans
grow up.
Yes. Except they're not growing up in this series.
Okay.
What they're doing is they're focusing on adult characters who have adult problems.
Got it.
Of commitment issues, of temptation, of addiction, of birth, even of new love, of love for a child, of like family love.
I feel like I know the answer to this question, and I'm going to be disappointed by it. Is it as ugly as Big Mouth is, like look-wise?
It's the exact same thing.
Gross. I knew that was going to be the answer.
It's the exact same look.
About it.
It's the exact same look, exact same art team.
That's the thing.
Exact same comedy.
That's the thing that keeps me from Big Mouth. It's like I know that there's quality stuff in there. I just can't get past how gross everything looks. I just can't do it. I just can't watch it for 30 minutes. I just like, I don't want to see that.
Well, whereas Big Mouth is about puberty and focuses heavily on puberty and first-time emotions.
Right.
Human Resources at least takes the step back and says, okay, these are adults who have lived with these emotions, lived with these kind of resources. Just the monster resources with them. So they've lived with them. They know how to communicate with them on a constant level.
Mm-hmm.
And so in turn, they have their emotions more in check. But what happens when those emotions don't want to be in check?
Yeah, what happens when they need that help?
Yes.
All of a sudden, something happens.
Yeah. So it's a different take on Big Mouth because it's not growing up. It's living with and dealing with these internal emotions externally as well.
Mm-hmm.
But in the always Big Mouth fantastical world that it lives in.
Right.
I don't know if I liked it better because of this.
Well, it's like once you get away from the kids and talk about adult problems, probably more relatable for an adult audience. And so that may be affecting some of that, where it's like, okay, this is a little bit more relatable to me.
Yeah, so I don't know if it's like just like trying to like poke me, like, hey, this is exactly for you.
Yeah,
like, oh, do I want the cartoon to point the mirror at me?
Because that was always the weird thing that we talked about when we talked about Big Mouth when it premiered. Is like, who's this for? Because a lot of it seems like this would be really educational for kids that are this age going through these things. But at the same time, it's like, also, this is super dirty and
R-rated.
Not anything I would want a 13-year-old to see. So it's like, it was this weird thing that was like, why does this exist? What is this for?
Exactly.
Whereas this seems like they're correcting that a little bit, being like, okay, well, we know who's actually watching this show. Let's maybe age this up a little. Let's talk about issues that these people who are already our audience are going through, but have the same kind of approach.
Right, but at the same time, you don't want it to be too preachy. And it does rarely like tiptoe that line of, are we being preachy here of how you should feel, how you should act and behave?
And that's tricky.
Yeah.
And
it's easy when you're talking down to kids because adults know better.
Right, exactly. This is different because this is like, these issues are a little bit more ambiguous. Like, like I could see where it's like, oh, maybe this is not the universal answer to this question. Yeah, that's true.
Like, it's easy for to have the shame monster with kids because they're shamed and afraid of everything.
Yeah.
But when you have it with an adult, it's like, am I really shameful about this, or am I just don't want to confront my fears here?
Right. That's the question. So if you want to ask yourself these tough questions, Human Resources, there you go. On
Netflix. Maybe educational, maybe therapeutic.
Yeah, because they'll give Big Mouth spinoff, but they won't renew the Babysitter's Club. With that, let's move on to cancellations and renewals.
Yep.
As I mentioned, Babysitter's Club canceled after 2 seasons on Netflix. NBC has canceled New Amsterdam after 5 seasons. I'm actually surprised by this because, like, it seemed like this was going to be one of those shows that lasted forever inexplicably.
Oh, they already did the baby episode. They already did the wedding episode.
All right.
So how much can you do with the main character? Who is your sole main character? It's not an ensemble. As much as they want an ensemble to be, it's about a main character guy.
Yeah.
So, the same problem they had with Ordinary Joe, which got canceled last week.
Right. Speaking of NBC chopping things down before it grows up, The Courtship canceled after just 2 episodes.
Yes, all remaining episodes will air, I think, on Hulu.
Peacock?
Maybe Peacock.
That would be weird if it was going to be on Hulu, but okay, sure.
Wait, maybe Peacock, maybe Hulu. It's going to streaming. But yeah, 2 episodes of The Courtship, and then shipped out.
Nothing. Yeah. And then if you're an anime fan, classic anime fan, they just announced there will be even more FLCL, aka Fooly Cooly. So if you're a fan of that series, I've heard okay things about it. It feels like something I might like, but I've not been able to find a place I can watch the original.
So this is the 2nd season of the reboot.
Right.
Yes, because they already did.
They tried this already 4 years ago or so.
Yeah, or 2 years. They announced it 4 years ago. I think it aired 2 years ago.
Okay.
But yeah, the reboot will get a 2nd season. So for those of the fans of the original, that only had the 1 season and it ended, we can get actually more now.
But the best news of the week, in my opinion, they're bringing back Abbott Elementary on ABC for a 2nd season. Thank God.
Hey!
Have you been watching this?
Yes.
Thank God, because easily the best sitcom on television right now. The best new sitcom, at least. It's been great.
I'm still liking the new The Wonder Years.
Yeah, I have not delved into that, but I've heard okay things. But yeah, I'm having a good time with
I'm
that.
telling you, it's on the first half season. Half the first season is on Disney Plus right now.
Well,
you get into it.
Perhaps I'll check it out. I guess I think the thing that keeps me away from it is that it's a period piece, and I'm like, do I really?
Don Cheadle narrates
want
it.
that?
I know period pieces.
I'd rather if I'm getting that too much of that with movies this year,
right?
And so I'm like, for television, I'm like, I'll keep it modern for now. But yeah, good news for fans of Abbott Elementary. I'm glad that they're getting more episodes because that's such a strong show.
Yep.
All right. A couple deaths this week. William Hurt. Yes, that William Hurt, age 71. Storied actor. Kiss of the Spider-Woman, broadcast news, The Incredible Hulk, etc., etc., etc. Will be missed for sure. You can guarantee that William Hurt will be on your in memoriam at the Oscars.
Yep. That's in 2 weeks. Did the deadline pass? No?
I don't think because
typically there has to be a deadline before you submit photos.
I think so. I think they'll definitely manage to fit him in.
I think they'll manage to fit him in.
That'd be weird.
But yeah, William Hurt. If you don't know that name, but you watch a lot of Marvel films, he is Thunderbolt Ross, General Ross in the MCU.
Right. But also before that.
Before that, yes.
Like long career.
Yes. Broadcast news. If you haven't seen it, go watch it.
Yeah, classic. And then if you're a fan of wrestling, you'll be sad to know Scott Hall, a.k.a. Razor Ramon, passed away this week, age 63, Hall of Famer in the WWE.
Yep.
As a wrestling reporter here, do you want to elaborate?
Big heel in the 90s. Unfortunate that he had to pass. It was due to complications from a hip surgery that did not go well. Right. It's super unfortunate, super sad news.
It's super sad.
Also, super sad news on William Hurt, prostate cancer.
Yeah.
So,
rough ones.
Rough ones
in this week. Yep. But what's not rough, as we move into the movie section, was the box office, as it pretty much went as you expected.
Are we speeding through this?
We are. I told you we would. The Batman is your number one movie again this week, another $66 million. That's at $239 domestic. Your number two, hopping up a little bit from last week, Uncharted, back at number two with $9 million. That's at $113 million. Not bad. Number three, BTS, Permission to Dance on Stage. Soul, live viewing. Live viewing, which is the concert film for BTS. $6.8 million debut. Number four, Dog, another $5.2 million for that, $47 million domestic. And rounding out your top five, it won't go away, even though it just launched on digital this week. Spider-Man No Way Home with another $4 million. That's at $792 million. Will it make it to 800?
No, it will not, unless it gets the re-release. IMAX re-release coming soon, just to hit the 800 million.
Yeah. Then this week in new releases, The Lost City. What is The Lost City?
So out right now is
this is that Sandra Bullock thing.
Yep.
Right. They've been advertising this for like 3 months.
Yeah. So new next week on the 25th is The Lost City with Sandra Bullock and Beefcake McGee.
Right.
Channing Tatum.
Yes, Channing Tatum.
Yes.
Media vote favorite, Channing Tatum.
Also Daniel Radcliffe's in this thing.
Inexplicably.
Weirdly, yes.
Yeah.
The Lost City, about Sandra Bullock, who's a writer who writes these novels about the Lost City, but they're really romance novels, but someone thinks they're serious. So they kidnap the writer to find the Lost City. And
there you go.
Fish out of water, hilarity ensues.
Yep. It's in the ads, you know what to expect. Speaking of knowing what to expect, we knew what to expect as we talked about that this was going to wrap up very soon, and it finally did. Amazon has closed its $8.5 billion acquisition of MGM. The deal was first announced back in May and has been winding its way through the regulatory process. The completion of the transaction comes 2 days after the Amazon MGM deal received clearance from the European Union's antitrust regulator, which, quote, unconditionally, unquote, approved Amazon's proposed acquisition, in part because, quote, MGM's content cannot be considered as must-have. Burn! Take that! End quote. The European Commission, in its antitrust review, found that the overlaps between the Amazon and MGM businesses were limited. Mike Hopkins, Senior VP of Prime Video at Amazon Studios, said in a statement, quote, we welcome MGM employees, creators, and talent to Prime Video and Amazon Studios, and we look forward to working together to create even more opportunities to deliver quality storytelling to our customers. So that means that if a big MGM entrant in this year's Oscars, Licorice Pizza is a big winner, that trophy goes to Amazon.
Caveat here, it technically has not passed the US FTC regulations, but Amazon did give the FTC until mid-March to make any sort of complaints or regulations.
We haven't heard anything yet.
Yep, it's been silent on that front, so they're going through with it.
Deal seems to be done, and like I said, not super surprising.
Unless something happens in the next 10 days.
It probably won't.
It probably won't.
I thought you were going to say 10 hours. It's possible these days. Something could happen while we're, as soon as we're done recording this.
Yes.
Classic media vote podcast. Anyway, but that's not the only movie news this week, as South by Southwest is happening. Of course, that's not just movies. It's music and video games and everything else.
Yes, but the movie section was the first section. I think the actual music festival is this current weekend.
Yeah, that's happening already, I think.
Yeah.
But yeah, the top prize in narrative feature competition for South by Southwest went to I Love My Dad, written and directed by James Morosini, who also stars as a younger version of himself in a uncomfortable, retelling of how he was catfished by his father, played by Patton Oswalt.
Yes, surprise Patton Oswalt.
Not a surprise. I guess we knew that was going to be him, but that's still fun.
Oh no, this is like the ultimate surprise Patton Oswalt.
Yeah.
Like you're being catfished. Surprise, it's Patton Oswalt.
Meanwhile, Best Documentary Feature honors went to director Rosa Ruth Boston's Master of Light, a portrait of once incarcerated painter George Anthony Morton and his steps to rebuild his life after prison, which impressed its jury for its empathy as well. The South by Southwest Audience Voting Award will continue through Monday morning, March 21st, with popular winners to be announced next week. So South by Southwest news will continue into next week. But not a bad start.
Nope. I love, like we said, Meatball podcast favorite, Patton Oswalt.
Yes.
Being surprised here.
Yeah, not bad. So congratulations to them. Yep. All right. That'll do it for movie news. So we get to wrap it all up with our movie thoughts. You saw a big one this week. Let's talk about The Batman, as you've finally seen it.
All right. So last week I hyped up that I hadn't seen The Batman.
Right. The
Batman. Literally after the podcast, because we always record stuff a day too early or a day too late or something. I went and saw The Batman.
So how was Robert Pattinson? We've been making that joke for 2 years now.
We'll be making it more when they make sequels to this thing.
What's the payoff here?
All right. Matt Reeves.
Yeah.
If you don't know Matt Reeves, he is responsible for the revival of the Planet of the Apes series.
Well, after the Tim Burton one.
Yes.
Yeah. He took the torch and ran with it for the sequels.
Can you say it's a passing of the torch that Tim Burton didn't do anything with it for 15 years?
Yeah, I guess so.
So after Tim Burton's Planet of the Apes.
Right.
In 2000, which killed the franchise for 10 years.
Matt Reeves was like, nah, I got this.
Matt Reeves was like, hey, I can make a compelling story here.
Me and Andy Serkis, we can take care of it.
Yeah. So they bring in James Franco for the first film and then leave him out of everything else. But yeah, Planet of the Apes.
Yeah.
And
big success.
Big success.
People like those movies.
Yep. Matt Reeves, after following that up, gets pulled over to Warner Brothers and says, hey, we want you to do a comic book film for us.
Right.
And he's like, okay, we'll do the Batman. Yeah. Even though during this time, we also have the Batman with Batfleck.
Right. Too many Batmen.
And he's like, I don't want to deal with Ben Affleck Batman. I want to tell my own story of the Batman. Specifically, the Long Halloween story and that comic book line, where it's a lot more grittier Batman, a lot more detective Batman. And that's what this thing is.
Yeah.
Can someone turn the brightness up? It is very dark.
Yeah. Somebody described it as like if you thought that the Dark Knight was the dark and gritty take on Batman, this is somehow darker and grittier.
Oh no, the Dark Knight was very, by today's standards, very comic book and very by the note compared. But at the time of the Dark Knight's release, it was very groundbreaking. Like we can take comic book movies seriously.
Flash forward
to here.
Post Marvel universe.
12 years post the Dark. Well, 14 years, almost 15 years post the Dark Knight. Matt Reeves and the Batman. Oh wow, that's also like 15 years post Twilight too.
Yeah, believe it or not.
All that came around the same time.
Yeah.
Robert Pattinson. Trying to get that P in there.
Just call him Pattinson, it's fine.
All right, Robert Pattinson takes up the cowl on the mantle of the Batman. So he's already 2 years into portraying the Batman here.
Okay.
So now it's the diverging period.
So he's an experienced Batman.
And do I, as Batman, continue to be Batman? Or are there other ways that I can influence the city of Gotham? Because clearly crime, even though it says it's going down, it's not, still riddled with crime-infested warlord criminals and like all these masterminds, and the Riddler is on the loose, even though they'll call him the Riddler to like the very end. So it's a more detective style of the Batman as he tries to solve the Riddler's clues that he's left him, while also trying to take down the crime bosses of Gotham City with the help of Catwoman.
Okay.
Help and not help of Catwoman. Yeah. There's a lot of new technology in this because, as with Batman, he ages up with technology. Even though I still miss utility belt Batman, just catch all for everything.
Right.
Doesn't quite work here. Or at least doesn't quite play in today's day and age.
Yeah.
But it does feel like one, there's two separate endings, but because the studio wanted a traditional fighting ending, it felt like it could have ended in one note where you catch the Riddler, you lock him up, and then that's it. But there's
not
no fifth
big
fight.
enough.
It's not big enough. There's no fight. There's no
explosions.
There's no explosion. So he had to write a second ending that kind of tied into everything that the Riddler.
Yes.
So,
which we should mention.
This
movie is 3 hours long.
What is 3 hours long? And two, I've seen a lot of reviews of people making that exact same faux pas of calling the Joker the Riddler and saying that it's the Riddler, saying the Joker was actually the Riddler. I've seen that faux pas in several different video essays about the Batman. And I can easily see why, because a lot of the mental tormentor that Heath Ledger, the Joker, was known for in The Dark Knight, translates here to the mental tormenting of the Riddler in The Batman.
Okay. Are they too similar, perhaps?
They are different characters, but it's not like campy, like leotard Jim Carrey Riddler.
Yeah.
It's more hidden in the shadows. I'm going to leave notes and clues everywhere.
Like Arkham Asylum Riddler.
Yes.
Yeah.
Where you don't really see him until the very end.
Right. You just have to go find all those question marks.
But I do love the take of the Riddler here, where the Riddler sees himself as the hero of Gotham, as the Riddler helps to take out and point Batman into the direction of all of these crime bosses and how everyone is corrupt and taking out the corruptness within Gotham. Whereas Batman is out there not taking out the corrupt people. He's just fighting up the goons in the beginning. He's just fighting up the random guys.
Yeah.
Not necessarily actually helping the city of Gotham, whereas the Riddler is trying to help the city of Gotham. So that's the interesting take here of the Batman, is that your villain, essentially, the Riddler, sees himself as trying to help Batman and Gotham. It's a good take. It's an interesting take. I don't know if it lands, because it does. I think it does land, but you have to squint and say okay, maybe, because it skews heavily into the right-wing QAnon conspiracy theory. I was right about this whole thing. You've been having the veil over your eyes. And so you can easily take the wrong message away from here.
Yeah.
The QAnon people are right. And there is the bigger conspiracy thread here, which can and cannot push that agenda if you don't want it to.
Yeah, I definitely have heard this from another source as well, where the message this movie is super lost, because it seems like they don't want to necessarily commit super hard to what they're to either side, and they're just so it's by the end of it you're just okay, well, Batman's trying to figure this out, I guess. He's more or less landed on what he thinks he wants to do, but there's a lot of questions left open about the world here, and
so here's where I land on the Batman. I like the world building. I love the world. It's probably the most greatest Gotham we've seen on screen.
But
I don't know if I actually like the story.
Yeah, it seems like that's where they got a little muddled.
Which I like Matt Reeves as a director. The directing's good in here.
Sure, yeah.
The story, I think, needs to be played out more over the course of more films. However, this is already a 3-hour film. And if you can't get your message across in 3 hours and you left people with it being muddled.
I mean, hey, maybe we're having a little bit of a history repeat scenario, right? Because, people liked Batman Begins, but it wasn't until The Dark Knight, with Christopher Nolan's second try on it, that everybody was like, oh, actually, no, this is the one. So it makes me think maybe if Matt Reeves does get a second chance here, he does get a sequel to this movie, maybe that's the movie then. Because
Warner
maybe
Brothers will make a sequel.
This is like, you know, like a little bit of growing pains. He's still trying to figure out the story he wants to tell in this universe. Maybe the second one will nail the story part too, once he's had the atmosphere and the character down.
So here's the other side, or the streaming side of the Batman. They've announced that Colin Farrell's
Spinoff City.
Yep, Colin Farrell's Penguin.
Yeah.
Which he gets lost in the makeup there. He gets lost in that. That's a great acting job by Colin Farrell here. Is getting his own spinoff of the Penguin series on HBO Max, as well as Gotham PD will be getting its own spinoff series in conjunction to the Batman. So we're already getting 2 different series on HBO Max from this one film.
Yeah.
And I think that might help to flesh out the world more, to give more stakes, and maybe even introduce more characters, more of the rogues gallery of Batman. So when you get to that second film, Batman The Long Night, which I'm going to assume that's what they're going to call it, or The Long Halloween, because that's the adaptation that they're taking of, which if you have not read, or the Batman The Long Halloween, YouTube Comics Explained breaks down Batman The Long Night and all of the spinning off stories from there.
So check that out.
Really good, especially when you get into Hush.
Yeah, version of that.
Because it'll be really fun and really interesting if they do bring in, 1, the character of Hush, and 2, the characters of the Court of Owls. 2 more recent Batman villains, aside from the like traditional ones, but also very dark and very more new crime noir.
Okay. All right.
Intakes of the Batman, which helps spin it more to that detective side,
right? Which
than
is
Batman beat up side.
Which is the world that he seems to be wants to tell story in first and foremost.
Yeah, it's Batman detective, and I'm all for Batman detective here.
I mean, yeah, like it seems like that's been Warner's MO right now with their franchise, especially their DC franchises, is let the movie kind of kick off the world, and then let the HBO Max streaming series flesh it out. Like we just saw them do that with Peacemaker for the Suicide Squad film. So yeah, like I could definitely see that this is an opportunity for them to be like, oh, well, we have streaming to like talk about these specific characters a little bit more and delve into that world.
Which, if it wasn't a film first, the Birds of Prey would have definitely been an HBO Max series.
Although I'm kind of glad that didn't happen, because I'm glad that movie got made because it's so unique.
Yep.
But yeah, otherwise, yeah, you're probably right that they would have done that now. So yeah, Batman. What would you call it? Do you think people should rush out and see it in theaters, or do you think this is a probably good wait-in for the HBO Max?
If you didn't see it already, yeah, you're good waiting. It's going to be on HBO Max exactly 1 month from now, mid-April.
All right, that's not too long to wait.
Because HBO Max now has the 30-day window.
Right. They do.
Or sorry, not 30-day, 45-day window.
45-day.
Yeah. So this came out at the beginning of March, so it'll be out mid-April.
That makes sense. So yeah, okay, cool. I'm glad it wasn't a total mess.
No, I had time. I had fun with it, but
just had
3 hours is a long time to commit.
Yeah, length and story issues. Sounds like All right, well, that's a new movie that we can talk about. I watched some, well, not old movies, but like some catch-up movies from the end of last year.
All right, that's Oscar catch-up.
Continued Oscar catch-up. I know I keep doing this, but trust me, I'll eventually catch up. I'm trying to whittle down these best picture nominees as best as I can. I watched a big 3 this week. I've watched Nightmare Alley, Coda, and Licorice Pizza. I still have 40 minutes left on Licorice Pizza, so I don't have a full review of that yet, but I will tell you about my initial impressions. So first up, Nightmare Alley was the first one we watched. This is available on Hulu. This is the Guillermo del Toro entry into the Best Picture race this year.
I believe Nightmare Alley is also available on HBO Max.
Yeah, it's on both. I watched it on Hulu. Which was actually, in retrospect, a bad choice, because I believe it's on 4K on HBO Max and only HD on Hulu. And I didn't realize that until I was already watching it. So I was like, oh, whoops. Messed that up. But anyway, there's a movie that would probably benefit from it, because if there was a movie that was more built for production design Oscar, I don't know what it is, because this is for sure your favorite.
This is Guillermo del Toro.
Yeah. Yes, you know what he does. And this is this is a very Guillermo del Toro movie. This is his ode to the film noir. So if you're a film school nerd like we are, there's a lot to like here, story-wise and character wise, it's very much in that noir mode. It's very much about like tragedy about a man who like gets like who's just like it gets like a little unsure what he wants to do, gets involved in the wrong crowd, a couple of femme fatales are involved, and ultimately succumbs to his vices. And yeah, it's very much that story. It's very much in that mode. Like I said, visually, it's a lot of fun. There's a lot of cool shit happening. A little creepy, a little weird. It seems to be based on existing material. I guess the Nightmare Alley was some sort of 1930s film that was more of like a disparate selection of stories. This tries to unite all those stories into one, which makes Act 1 of this a little aimless and a little like you feel by the time that you're done with it, you're like, that didn't really have much effect on the rest of the plot. It goes a completely different direction in Act 2 and then kind of becomes its own movie from there. So as a little meandering to start, it does eventually find its goal. And by the end of it, you're like, yeah, that was an enjoyable, like wild, like ride through this dude's like ultimate failure. So yeah, I enjoyed it. Is it Best Picture? I don't think so, but it's definitely not as strong as Academy Award Best Picture winning Shape of Water. It's definitely not his best, but I think it is definitely like a good
follow-up.
Yeah, a good like follow-up tone-wise to something like that. So yeah, I enjoyed it. It's fun. What I enjoyed more though was Apple TV Plus's Coda, which could not be any more different from Nightmare Alley.
Yep. So this is the current frontrunner as it picked up the SAG Award for Best Ensemble.
So yes and no. And when I say that is, I don't think this is, but after I finished it, I was like, this is not your traditional Best Picture winner. It has a lot of like, this is the feel-good movie of the year. And yes, that sounds cheesy, but let's be real. A lot of this movie is kind of cheesy. This movie is a very traditional, like feel-good structure. It's very much a coming-of-age movie about a young girl and a teacher that she looks up to, and a family that doesn't necessarily always get along with, and the trial between like trying to find her own voice, both literally and figuratively, with what her family expects her to do, with the responsibilities she has at home. Except for one catch, and the thing that makes the movie unique, which is she is a coda, a child of a deaf adult. In fact, her entire family is deaf. She is the only speaking member of her immediate family. This is what makes this movie special. This is what makes this movie unique. As I want to say, a good like 70% of this movie is American Sign Language. It's a lot of watching the actors, all played by deaf actors, I want to mention. Very important for this film to work. And how they see the world, how they live in this world that they live in, and how the lead character, how Ruby reacts to this, and how expectations are different for her because of what her family is going through. And that makes what seems like a pretty boilerplate bog standard story. It gives it so much more life and gives it so much more like feels special because it's coming from a unique point of view. And that's what makes this movie. If this movie was made in like any other circumstances, it would not be great. But the reason why it's great is because of the context it's in. And it definitely, by the end of it, you're like, you know what? Yeah, this was a fresh perspective on a tried and true story. There are moments where it gets a little too like on the nose, especially I don't really love the teacher character because it's very tropey. But besides that, the rest of this world feels new. It feels fresh. And there's a moment, like we talk a lot about emotional gut punches. Mm-hmm. There's an emotional gut punch moment at the end of this movie that is worth the price of admission here. Dude. So if you want to see a feel-good, funny movie with a new take, and you want to delve into the world of the deaf community, maybe it's not a world you considered or really thought about much. This is a movie that really does all of that, and really by the end of it, you're like, yeah, no, this was a good time. Again, is it Best Picture? Probably not. Is kind of the feeling I have at the end of it. However, the unique approach to the script here, I think this might have a screenplay lock. Ooh. That's my prediction. I think this is your adapted screenplay.
You're pretty good at nailing these.
Yeah, I'm feeling this for adapted screenplay, but we'll see. We'll see. Because the last movie that I watched, like I said, bar the last 40 minutes of it, is I think your original screenplay lock. So Licorice Pizza, that's the new Paul Thomas Anderson. It's very much one of his movies. If you like his approach to direction and writing, you will enjoy this. It's less of a story that you're like, oh, I need to know what twist is coming up, and more of a tone piece. It's very much a vibe. This is 1970s Los Angeles. This is very much in that world. It has a lot of fun with the production design and the costume design with that kind of era. It's very much and it's very much that. So if you're like, whatever about like 1970s Hollywood, this might not do a whole lot for you because it is very inside baseball. All of the stories are from this perspective of people who grew up there. All of the characters are very much that era, like Hollywood elite style characters. And like, so there may be a little bit of disconnect if you're like, these rich people with rich people problems. But if you kind of throw that away, there's some interesting stuff happening in this movie. Of course, the other baggage here is that, yes, the main relationship in this film does happen to be a 25-year-old woman having a will they, won't they sort of relationship with a 15-year-old boy.
Wait, I've seen this film before. This is Adventureland.
So yes and no. So unlike that, though, this is pretty light on the creepy part. This is more about like, actually, maybe they are just platonic friends, but it does oscillate enough on that line that there are moments of uncomfortableness. There's moments of like, okay, movie, we don't want to necessarily think about this part of this too much. But there are also, on the flip side of that, genuinely touching moments between these two characters. And you do see like moments of like, you know what, like, yeah, they are just people. They are just people going through weird parts of their lives, both trying to figure out, like, both growing up, both in crucial moments of like, who am I moments in their life that are just that are finding a friendship with each other because of that similar feeling of like not knowing, feeling lost. And it is kind of weird because you get this kind of vaguely emotionally stunted woman in her 20s that's not really sure what she wants to do in her life, contrasted with this 15-year-old who seems to have it figured out. Is like, I am a child actor. This is my life. I'm professional. I'm adult. I talk to adults like they're adults, kind of thing. Mm-hmm. And so that dynamic is also pretty interesting. So if that all sounds interesting to you, and if that like is the kind of like, if that feels like a kind of story, regardless of the baggage of like, I don't know about this, there's enough interesting happening here that there's a worthwhile story. Also, it is a tone that just feels like and only PTA is good at, like, he's so good at this. Like it's a world that feels like so like weird and magic that you just want to sit in it for a while. And so yeah, I'm enjoying it so far. I'll have, I guess, wrap up thoughts really briefly next week when I finish it up. But yeah, it's a strong entry. Again, I don't know if this is Best Picture. I still think Power of the Dog is the lock. I'm still confident about this. I think this is your Best Picture is The Power of the Dog. But as the entry in that lineup, it's still pretty good. I'm having a good time with it. So yeah, I think the ones I still have to see are Drive My Car and Belfast. I think are the last two that I have on my docket here. We're double checking here with the nominees here.
There's Best Picture. Okay, so Belfast you haven't seen.
So that's still to do.
But you got Coda.
Coda, Don't Look Up.
Dune, King Richard.
Oh, King Richard, I have not seen. You did.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's it. So
Licorice Pizza, Nightmare Alley, Power of the Dog, and West Side Story.
So I'm done except for Belfast and Drive My Car and King Richard. And together, our powers combined, we just have Belfast and Drive My Car. Which I don't know. Those are the two ones I'm most fearing because I don't really care.
Well, Drive My Car is the going to be your international film.
Yeah, that's a lock for international film.
Yep.
I don't know. We'll see. But yeah, so that's my Best Picture update. I'm still feeling Power of the Dog. It's kind of where I'm at. So we'll see.
We will see, because next week is going to be our Oscar preview show, as we will record this the night before.
Right. Yes.
The Oscars, and we'll give you a breakdown of everything.
Yes, we will do our predictions that night.
Yes.
We'll lock them in tomorrow, but yes, we'll have them on the podcast next week for you.
Yep. But with that, I'll lock us in for another episode of the Mediaville Podcast.
Thank you.
It did hit 2 hours.
It did. Thank you for joining us. We'll be back next week as always. Another live show on Saturday morning for you. So tune in for that on our YouTube channel. If you want to find that, you can go to youtube.com, search Media Boat Podcast, and look there. If you wanted to listen to our audio version of the podcast, you can do so on podcast services such as Apple Podcasts, Google Play, iHeartRadio, wherever you listen to podcasts. We're there. Search Media Boat Podcast. There is also where you can find our currently ongoing March Madness bracket series. Just like in basketball, we also have a March Madness bracket, except instead of basketball, we're talking about animated Disney film songs. We are already 2 episodes in as of this recording. If you want to delve into our bracket creation for those songs, you can tune in on those podcast feeds and check that out. Our goal is to pick one Disney movie song to rule them all. Will it be?
We currently have our top 16 from each specific Disney periods.
So next is to have them face off against each other and see if your bracket gets busted. So will A Whole New World can compete against Let It Go, or We Don't Talk About Bruno, or The Bare Necessities? Tune in.
Yep, with more.
Yes.
We'll see if Radigan can come back again.
Yeah, probably not. But yeah, so tune into that. That's our currently going Disney song March Madness bracket. That's also available on our podcast feed. So Media Boat Podcast is where you can find that. You can also find us on social media at Media Boat Cast is our Twitter account. Our Facebook, you can search Media Boat Podcast to find us there. If you want to send us an email, we do read emails. If you ask us questions, comments, or have any feedback about the show, send them to mediaboatpodcast@gmail.com. With that, we will be back next week for our Oscar prediction show, along with all sorts of thoughts like Maren Morris and
Kirby
the Forgotten Land, whatever more we want to talk about. So we'll be back next week with another episode. Stay tuned and have a good week.
Yep, more news, more thoughts, more of us next week.
Bye-bye.
Okay, bye.
Pretty packed for an hour and 44 minutes.
Yeah, we sped through a lot of that.
Yeah.
All right.
That blonde espresso.
The dude in blue should grow a mustache.
Is this person's name 100% true?
That is 100% true.
I guess
the
so.
dude in blue should grow a mustache.
He should grow a mustache.
We'll find out next week. Okay, bye.
Because I have one?